The first reading is from the book of Proverbs. I could say that I have a visual aid with this reading. She's sitting right over there. When one finds a loving wife, her value is far beyond pearls. Her husband, entrusting his heart to her, has an unfailing prize. She brings good and not evil to her house all the days of her life. She obtains wool and flax and works with loving hands. She puts her hands to the distaff, and her fingers ply the spindle. She reaches out her hands to the poor and extends her arms to the needy. Charm is deceptive and beauty fleeting. The woman who reveres God is to be praised. Give her a reward for her labors, and let her works praise her at the city gates. The word of God. The psalm response is, "Blessed are those who revere God." Blessed are those who revere God. Blessed are those who fear the Lord, who walk in God's ways. For you shall eat the fruits of your handiwork. Blessed shall you be and favored. Blessed are those who revere God. Your wife shall be like a fruitful vine in the recess of your home, your children like olive plants around your table. Blessed are those who revere God. Behold, thus is the one blessed who reveres God. The Lord bless you from Zion. May you see the prosperity of Jerusalem all the days of your life. Blessed are those who revere God.
Second reading is from Thessalonians. It's a letter from Paul to the Thessalonians. Concerning times and seasons, brothers and sisters, you have no need for anything to be written to you, for you yourselves know very well that the day of the Lord will come like a thief in the night. When people are saying peace and security, then sudden disaster comes upon them. The labor pains upon a pregnant woman, and they will not escape. But you, brothers and sisters, are not in darkness, for that day to overtake you like a thief, for all of you are children of the light and children of the day. We are not of the night or of darkness. Therefore, let us not sleep as the rest do, but let us stay alert and somber. The word of the Lord.
Morning, everybody. God's peace be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. Jesus told his disciples this parable. A wealthy landowner going on a journey called in 3 workers and entrusted some funds to them. The first was given 5 gold pieces, the second 2, to a third 1, according to their ability. Then the landowner went away. Immediately the one who had received 5 gold pieces went and traded with them and made another 5. Likewise, the one who received 2 made another 2, but the one who received 1 talent went off and dug a hole in the ground and buried the money. After a long time, the landowner returned and settled accounts with them. The one who had received the 5 gold pieces came forward, bringing an additional 5, saying, "You gave me 5. See, I've made 5 more." The landowner said, "Well done, good and faithful servant. Since you are faithful in small matters, I will give you great responsibilities. Come and share my joy." Then the one who had received 2 gold pieces came forward and said, "You gave me 2. I've made 2 more." Landowner said, "Well done, my good and faithful servant. You are faithful in small matters. I will now give you greater responsibilities. Share my joy." Then the one who had received the 1 gold piece came forward and said, I knew you were a demanding person. You harvest where you do not plant. You gather where you do not scatter. So fearing your wrath, I went off and buried your talent in the ground. Here, you can have it back." The landowner said in reply, "You wicked, lazy servant. So you knew I harvest where I did not plant, and I gather where I did not scatter. Should you not have been putting my money in the bank so I could at least get some interest when I got back? Now then, take that gold piece from this bum and give it to the one with 10. Those who have will get more until they grow rich, while those who don't have anything will lose even what they do have. And throw this guy out into the darkness, where there'll be the wailing and the grinding of teeth." You might remember the big Enron scandal in 2001. At the time, Enron was one of the largest corporations in the United States. It was a giant in the field of energy and utilities. Fortune had named it America's most innovative company 6 years in a row. It had reserves of revenues of $100 billion a year. It employed 29,000 people. But it was not an ethical company. It did fraudulent accounting. Sharon Watkins, the vice president, uncovered a $700 million unethical mess. Assets were missing, numbers didn't add up, so she blew the whistle. She was the famous whistleblower. Others knew about the problem, but she was the only one to blow the whistle. And of course, Enron retaliated, and she lost her job. But you might remember that Time magazine put Sharon Watkins on its cover for a Person of the Year. When Time asked her if being a woman might be the reason why she was the only one to confront the institution, she said, "Women aren't part of the old boys club, and so a woman is not concerned about being kicked out of the club because you don't belong in the club to begin with." Surveys show that women take more risks in the social and moral areas, whereas men take more risks in the physical and financial areas. Being a whistleblower can be toxic. When you try to stop something that's wrong, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. When you're in the news for doing something courageous, some will say, "Hey, you're just a media hog. You just want some attention." Some accuse you of not caring about your own people. Watkins became a whistleblower because she was a person of faith. She was raised to follow her conscience. She believed that actions do matter. At her job at Enron, she came across a memo with a quote from Martin Luther King: "Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter." When she took action on something that mattered, she was fired. Now, you get blackballed for telling the truth. A whistleblower is labeled as somebody who's loyal to the truth, but not necessarily to their company. It makes other people feel uncomfortable because they aren't willing to take the same risks for the sake of truth. So they end up sometimes criticizing the whistleblower too. Sharon Watkins was shocked at how hard it is for people to take responsibility for their mistakes. She said, "It is almost impossible for people to admit that they have done wrong." The night before the election, maybe you saw Frontline. It detailed the earlier lives of Donald Trump and Joe Biden. And it said that one of President Trump's mentors taught him 3 things. 1, never admit you're wrong. 2, never apologize. And 3, always blame others. Never admit you're wrong, never apologize, always blame others. His mentor taught him this. I don't know about you, but when I start blaming people, I have to stop myself and I say, what truth am I avoiding about myself if I'm just blaming other people? In Matthew's gospel today, there's a story about an unethical master. He gives $10,000 to one servant, $5,000 to another, and $1,000 to a third. The first 2 servants double their money, they play the system, and the master is happy. The third is the whistleblower, the third man who gets the 1 gold piece. He's a whistleblower. He calls out the master, "Hey, you harvest what you don't plant." In other words, you take what is not yours. You cheat people. You're a corrupt manager. The whistleblower refuses to play the game. refuses to be part of the corruption. So he gives his $1,000 back. He says, "Here, you can take this." The master is outraged that the servant refuses to work the system. And in his anger, isn't this interesting, the master even admits that he's corrupt. He says, "So you knew I harvest where I don't plant. So you know I cheat people. Yeah, you're right about that." He admits it. And what does the unethical master do to the whistleblower? The same thing that happened to Sharon Watkins at Enron. He ridicules him and throws him out. It often happens, doesn't it, when you speak truth to power. Now, these two whistleblowers stand in a long line of people standing up to oppressive leaders. The first time this happens in the Bible, it's in the book of Exodus. The Egyptian Pharaoh was concerned that Hebrews were getting too numerous. They're having too many children. So he summons two Hebrew midwives, Shiphrah and Puah, to the royal palace. And the Pharaoh orders them to kill every male baby they deliver. Now, what a dilemma for Shiphrah and Puah. Do they follow the Pharaoh and kill their own Hebrew babies? Or do they disobey the king? They disobeyed the king. They let the male babies live. Pharaoh was outraged. He calls them in, demands an accounting. Shiphrah and Puah say, "Well, these Hebrew women are robust people, and the babies just pop out of them even before we can get there to help." They risked danger by refusing to abide by an unjust system. And that's the first act of civil disobedience in the Bible, followed by many, many others. In the New Testament, we're familiar with St. Paul writing those famous words, "Women should be silent in church." You ever heard that one? Women should be silent in church. Why did he say that? Because women were not being silent in church. That's why he wrote that. Did they obey Paul? No. They refused to abide by an unjust system. They refused to have their church dominated by men, and they kept on speaking. Spiritus Christi is actually a product of their whistleblowing. Going back to the wicked master. When the master rebukes the whistleblower, he tells him, "You should have invested my money with the bankers so that I could have come back and at least got the interest." Interest. Now, this is a clue as to why the third man is the hero of this story. Interest. It's the only time interest is mentioned in the New Testament, but it's mentioned a lot in the Old Testament, in the Hebrew Scriptures. Exodus 22, "If you lend money to the poor, you shall not demand interest from them." Deuteronomy 23, "You shall not charge interest on loans or anything else that you lend." Leviticus 25, "Do not lend your money at interest." And here's an even stronger one, Ezekiel 18, "If you charge people interest, you're going to die. Don't charge interest." For the Jews, charging interest was a big no-no. Why? Because it kept the poor in debt. Owing debt put them farther and farther and farther behind. The Jews said, "No interest." Jesus was very upset with the suffering that debt caused his people. Debt from the Roman taxes, debt from the temple taxes, from the taxes given to the priests. Jesus proclaimed the kingdom of God, which would be totally free of debt. He announced the Jubilee year where all debts are permanently canceled. No debts. Today, many people are over their head with credit card debt. The average American is at least $3,000 in credit card debt. A church in Norfolk, Virginia, is committed to freeing people of their credit card debt. The church holds services where people bring in their Visa cards and their MasterCards. And the pastor gets up in the pulpit and says, "Are we going to serve the master or are we going to serve the MasterCard?" And he takes his scissors and he cuts up the card. Then they take a collection to bail out the people one at a time. One lady was given $19,000 from the collection to free her of her debt. She said, "I spent tons of money on clothes and things that I have nothing to show for." So she and others who have been bailed out are asked to take a money management course, and then they give $300 every month in the collection to be used to bail out other debtors. And I know, Terry Pease, you run a money management course here, and it's fantastic. You've gotten so many people out of debt. Third world countries are also suffering in debt. So we do need to hear this Jewish point of view, and not just the American point of view from Wall Street. Jesus says, will you live by God's law, or will you live by the Roman law, which allows interest? Will you build a world of justice for all, or a world where the rich keep getting richer and the poor keep getting poorer? Notice in the gospel, the wicked master takes the $1,000 from the one who hid it and gives it to the one that's got $10,000. There it is. The rich get richer, the poor get poorer. So Jesus is saying bluntly, do you stand with the greedy, or do you stand with the needy? The Affordable Care Act is under scrutiny right now by the Supreme Court. Why? Because it's the only federal action in the 21st century that has helped redistribute wealth in America. It's actually made our society more equal. It has redistributed income in the form of health insurance and subsidies. Groups who did poorly in the previous times are now doing much better. And who are the biggest winners of Obamacare? People 18 to 34, Black people, Latinx people, and people who live in rural areas. Despite what anybody thinks of the law, it has redistributed wealth. And this is very unusual today in our society. Proverbs 31 that Lou read talks about the virtuous woman that Judy is. And you might have used this reading for your grandmother's funeral or your mother's funeral. A woman who watches out for her own family and the poor. She reaches out her hands to the poor and extends her arms to the needy. In other words, she considers the poor to be part of her family. She considers the poor to be part of her family. And this is the opposite of the story of the wicked master who looks out only for himself. He has no concern for the common good. So in this story, and in many stories, Jesus is teaching us about justice, to stand up to inequity, to be a whistleblower, to build a world where those who have a lot won't have too much, and those who have a little won't have too little. Somebody once asked Mother Teresa, what's the biggest problem in the world today? She didn't even hesitate. We draw the circle of our family too small.
Sometimes I see failure. When you see victory. I see where I am, Lord. You see where I shall be. Open my eyes. Help me believe. I am what you see. Help me to see me. The way you see me. Sometimes I see failure. When you see victory. I see where I am, Lord. You see where I shall be. Open my eyes. I am what you